Schools were closed, of course, here in New Haven, just like most cities and towns across the state, except in Newington, a city of 30,000 people, 4,000 of them students. Many of them are wondering why they were asked to drive during a snowstorm. Some very tense moments here at West Haven High School. Earlier this afternoon, a phone call came in saying that a man was planted up here on top of the roof at the high school. The caller said that man had a gun and that he was threatening to rain down bullets on anyone who was outside. Now, thankfully, it was all a hoax, but it was one of at least 4 across the state today. By the airport in Windsor Locks, if you want to just take a look over my shoulder here, that's one of the runways. You may have trouble seeing it because the snow is coming in so hard. It's coming in literally horizontally. We haven't seen much snow just falling. The wind has been relentless, probably about 10-15 miles an hour steady, and then gust much more than that. This could be the beginning of the end for the sprawling Church Street South housing complex. If you've ever been to the train station here in New Haven, then you can't miss the place. Nearly 300 apartment units of concrete block that have housed families here since 1969, and soon it'll all be empty. It started in the house right next to hers that is now collapsed completely, and the building on the left is also going to be a total loss. We had 4 structures in all, 3 of them will be a total loss. Still no word on exactly what started the blaze here today. On the banks of the Connecticut River in East Haddam, right by the Salmon River boat launch, you can see it's still an active scene behind me where the body of 7-month-old Aiden Moreno was found before 8 o'clock. They're still out here processing the scene. And like you said, it's been 2 days of searching. It started with the father's murder-suicide attempt, and it culminates here tonight. Darren, we're told that most of the patients have already left the emergency department here at Yale New Haven Hospital. A hospital spokesperson says those who do remain have been admitted for overnight stays, but it's not clear just how many are still inside. A much calmer scene at Yale New Haven Hospital Monday night. Stark difference from the midday when ambulances rushed in from all over the shoreline, dropping off patients involved in the bus crash that shut down I-95 in Madison for several hours. 22 patients in all, 4 of them critical.
They did a great job. All the pre-hospital people got there. They got control of the situation. They identified the sickest patients, got them out quickly, and did a great job of triaging the patients to the appropriate place for care.
The snowy day turned out to be one that first responders won't soon forget. Units from at least 10 towns swarmed the scene at exit 61 northbound just after noon. Madison police say 55 passengers were on the bus, 33 who were able to walk away, brought to a warming center for safety.
Bring them over here and let them get warm. At one point we got them some coffee and some food just to make their stay here a little bit better.
The makeshift warming center inside the Madison Town Gym already stocked with cots since during the last snowstorm so many in the town were left without power. After a couple hours to calm down, another Dahlia bus was sent to pick up the remaining passengers.
I'd like to say how proud I am of our emergency services and how thankful I am for the mutual aid of the towns around us.
And the bus was reportedly chartered out of New York City, headed to Mohegan Sun. There's still no word on exactly what caused that crash. State police are still investigating. And the plan is to eventually move all 289 families out of the complex. Today, the process started as several families had to get all their things out before their apartments are sealed off and condemned. It's moving day for Jomali Rivera. She had to call out of work for the 2nd time this week on Thursday because it's the last time she'll be allowed inside her subsidized apartment at Church Street South.
I don't want to keep calling out. I don't want to lose my job.
Over a month ago, she was moved out to a nearby 1-bedroom hotel with expenses covered by the property owners, a Massachusetts company named Northland Investments. It's tough on your family then, all this moving back and forth?
Yes, it is. For my kids, they ask and they always say, "Mommy, I want to go home, but where is home?"
She was forced out immediately because of severe mold damage caused by water leaking all throughout the ceiling and walls of her apartment. She showed us problem areas with mold visible through the clear plastic cover. None of her children were allowed in the downstairs bathroom for fears that the ceiling would collapse at any moment. And see that lady in the background? She's the neighbor. That's a separate apartment, and the wall was demolished between the 2 units due to severe mold. Most of the things she worked for and owned will now be piled into the trash heap.
I can't bring in none of my furniture. It smells like mold. Some of them are just wet clothes that they got wet and they have mold and it stink awful.
Northland Investments provided pod storage units for several tenants who are already at hotels, but calls from other residents are also growing louder, saying their families are suffering from mold spreading inside their homes that they have no control over.
This is serious. This is not a game. This is a health condition.
People are really suffering in Syria, especially the children.
The thought of his homeland, Syria, ravaged by the terrors of an ongoing civil war, is enough to bring Ramiz Alderwish to tears. He's one of the fortunate ones who escaped to the United States with his wife and 2 young children.
All Syrian are my sisters and brothers, and the overall situation is not good at all.
From the safety of New Haven, Ramiz told his story. He's from Homs, once the 3rd largest city in Syria. That's before the Arab Spring started nearly 5 years ago, and protesters rose up in defiance against the regime of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad.
The protesters went out on the streets and they are requesting freedom. The government was just shooting them.
Say that again?
The government was shooting them.
Shooting the protesters.
The protesters.
In 2012, Ramiz escaped with his family to a refugee camp in Jordan, where they remained for nearly 3 years. His home, like much of the city, was obliterated. With the help of Integrated Refugee and Immigrant Services, the family made it to Connecticut in August after passing a security check.
The ultimate goal is to make sure that they can assimilate and become members, positive members of the Connecticut community as soon as possible.
IRIS is a State Department-funded group in New Haven responsible for the care of refugees fleeing from war or persecution. Ramiz had a steady job with good pay in Syria. Now here in New Haven, he's struggling to find work because of the language barrier.
But it's challenging. You know, learning English really quickly to get a job is challenging. Often the jobs that refugees get in the beginning, you know, they have to start from a lower level than they might have at home and work themselves up.
But Ramiz is willing to work hard and says he is more than grateful to have landed in Connecticut.
America is a very beautiful country. Connecticut is so beautiful.
It's gone. All that's left is this patch of dead grass and the broken hearts of 2-year-old twin brothers who miss their favorite lawn decoration.
The bad person took your gnome.
The bad person took your gnome?
Yeah.
Aw. We're going to try to get it back for you, okay?
Okay.
Did you say thank you?
Would you love that?
Thank you.
You heard right. The bad person stole their gnome. But not just any garden gnome. This one held deep sentimental value for the young West Haven family.
Trevi, whose gnome was that?
Ours.
Our gnome. Yeah. Do we want them to bring that back, our gnome?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tyler and Trevor were born 6 weeks premature. They had to be sent to the neonatal intensive care unit, and both parents were sent home without their newborn babies. The sad parents returned home to find this, a garden gnome standing more than 3 feet tall and weighing more than 100 pounds, carved out of solid cement, waiting in the yard.
Basically, it's one big gnome holding 2 little gnomes for these little guys.
Papa Gnome holding his 2 sons was a gift made especially for the family by Eric's brother, otherwise known as Uncle Brian.
When we walked home without them, it just made us really feel at home, like they were with us. And now, honestly, now that the gnome is gone, it feels like a piece of us is missing.
The family did call the police, but they'd just like the gnome back, no questions asked.
It's really heartbreaking. You know, it could have been some kid who took it. Just bring it back.
In West Haven, Jason Newton, News 8.